I do still very much think that the United States and Europe are on the same team. Sometimes I've been criticized as a hyper-realist, right? I think of foreign policy purely in terms of transactional values. What does the America get out of it? What do the rest of the world get out of it? And try to focus so purely on the transactional value of it that we ignore sometimes the humanitarian or the moral side of it. And I think at least with Europe, that's actually not a full encapsulation of my views, because I think that European civilization and American civilization, European culture and American culture are very much linked. And they're always going to be linked. And I think it's completely ridiculous to think that you're ever going to be able to drive a firm wedge between the United States and Europe. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going to have disagreements. And of course, you brought up the speech earlier. It doesn't mean that Europeans won't criticize the United States or the United States won't criticize Europe. But I do think fundamentally we have to be, and we are, on the same civilizational team. And I think obviously there's a big question about what that means in the 21st century. I think, obviously the president and I believe that it means a little bit more European burden sharing on the defense side. I think that it means that all of us, frankly, on both sides of the Atlantic have gotten a little bit too comfortable with the security posture of the last 20 years. And that, frankly, that security posture is not adequate to meet the challenges of the next 20 years. So there are a lot of ways in which this alliance will evolve and change in the same way that the alliance evolved and changed from 1945 to 1975 and from 1975 to 2005. I do think that we're in one of these phases where we're going to have to rethink a lot of big questions, but I do think that we should rethink those big questions together. That is a fundamental belief of both me and the president. You mentioned this is my third time speaking with the Munich Security Conference Group. Obviously, the first couple of times were in Munich, and I always remember very fondly, of course, that the very first time it was as a United States Senator representing Ohio, and I'm glad you got to spend a month in Dayton. I love Dayton. It's kind of the closest big city, if you can call it a big city, to where I grew up. But on that first panel, I was on that panel, and also David Lammy, who at the time was a lowly member in opposition, and of course now is the great foreign secretary of the United Kingdom, and he and I have become good friends. So I still think that this European alliance is very important, but I think that for it to be important and for us to be real friends with each other, and I think that we are very much real friends, we've got to talk about the big questions, and I know that's an important part of what this entire group does, so I'm glad to be here.
He would call Padre Romanelli and just ask them what they'd had for dinner.
Or smoke. We have smoke.
We do have smoke
we have
coming
smoke
out of that chimney, but it's definitely black.
Definitely black smoke. It's 21 hours. It's 9 o'clock in the evening here in Rome. And that is,
They took their time with it.
They took their time. They had a good think. They listened to a meditation by the papal preacher, which probably took time as well. Definitely black smoke there, I would say.
And I wonder what the reaction is to in the square below, to the crowds who are seeing that and knowing that there has been no decision, no successful outcome on this occasion. And now we have a shot of the square. I can see some cell phones flashing away there, whether they'll be able to capture that black smoke billowing in the wind there out of the chimney and away across the rooftop of the Sistine Chapel and the rest of the Vatican museums. I'm not sure, but that's certainly black smoke.
I wonder if we have some sound from the square there. Do we have squares? No, we don't. They tell us we don't. But we can see... Here we are.